Park Ji-ho rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. The numbers didn't make sense. Something big was moving at the edge of the solar system, something that shouldn't be there. He worked the night shift at the radio telescope facility in South Korea. Most nights were quiet, just listening to the stars and recording data. But tonight was different. The signals coming through were too organized, too perfect to be natural. "This can't be right," he whispered to himself. The readings showed massive objects dropping out of hyperspace near Jupiter's orbit. Objects that were clearly artificial and far too large to be human-made. Ji-ho grabbed his phone and called his supervisor. "Sir, you need to see this. Something is happening in space. Something big." Meanwhile, millions of miles away, Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue-green planet looked just like all the others his fleet had conquered. Primitive, defenseless, perfect. "Report," he ordered his second-in-command, Commander Thelnox. "Sir, initial scans confirm our intelligence. The planet has basic nuclear technology, fragmented governments, no unified defense force. Their most advanced ships barely reach their own moon. This will be simple." Kethvar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. The Vextar Empire had conquered 43 worlds using the same method. Arrive in overwhelming force, demand surrender, establish control zones. Most species gave up after seeing their fleet. The few that resisted were crushed quickly. Deploy. The standard intimidation formation. Target their major population centers. Begin communications jamming. I want their leaders to understand they have no choice but to surrender. The Vextar fleet spread out across Earth's orbit. 800 warships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. Their dark hulls blocked out stars as they moved into position. On Earth, Park Ji-ho watched his equipment die one by one. First, the radio signals went dead. Then the internet connections failed. Even his cell phone showed no signal. "They're jamming everything," he said to his empty office. He ran to the emergency radio, an old device that worked on different frequencies. He had to warn someone. In Seoul, Defense Minister Lee Min-ho was in a late-night meeting when his aide burst through the door. "Sir, we're getting reports from observatories. Worldwide, something is in orbit, something huge, and all our satellites just went dark." Lee Min-ho felt his blood turn cold. "Show me." The aide turned on the emergency television. Every channel showed the same thing, nothing, just static. Then suddenly, the static cleared. An alien face appeared on every screen in the world. The creature had gray skin, large black eyes, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, its voice was translated into every human language. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Kethvar of the Vextar Empire. Your planet is now under our control. You will surrender all military forces immediately. You will gather in the designated zones we will establish. Resistance is futile. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. Accept your new place in our empire, and you will be allowed to live." The transmission ended, leaving every screen dark again. Lee Min-ho stared at the blank television. Around the world, other leaders were having the same reaction: shock, fear, and then something else: anger. In the Vextar fleet, Commander Thelnox studied the initial scans of Earth's military forces. "Sir, they have approximately 30,000 aircraft of various types. Most are outdated. Their naval forces are limited to surface ships. No space-based weapons detected." "Excellent," Admiral Kethvar said. "Deploy fighter squadrons to their major cities. Show them what real power looks like. Once they see our ships in their skies, they'll surrender within hours." But Thelnox frowned at his readings. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual activity across the planet. It appears their military forces are mobilizing rather than surrendering." Kethvar laughed. "Let them. Their primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. This will only make the lesson more clear." High above Seoul, the first Vextar fighters appeared. They were sleek, silver ships that moved without sound. People in the streets pointed and screamed. Some ran for cover. Others pulled out their phones to record, even though the devices didn't work. At Osan Air Base, fighter pilot Kim Sora was already strapping into her F-35 when the alien ships appeared over the city. She had been scrambled along with every other pilot in South Korea as soon as the jamming started. "All units, this is Control," her radio crackled. "Hostile aircraft over Seoul. Rules of engagement are weapons-free. Repeat, weapons-free." Kim. Sora had trained for many situations, but never for this. Fighting aliens seemed like something from a movie. But as she lifted off and saw the alien ships hovering over her city, her training took over. "This is Eagle 2, she radioed. "I have visual on the hostiles. Beginning attack run." In space, Admiral Kethvar watched his tactical display with confidence. Green dots showed his fighters in position over Earth's cities. Soon, the primitive humans would see the futility of resistance. Then the first green dot disappeared. "What happened?" Kethvar demanded. "Sir, we've lost contact with Fighter 7 over the human city called Seoul. It appears to have been destroyed." Kethavar's confidence wavered slightly. "Destroyed? By what? Their weapons cannot penetrate our shields." Before Thelnox could answer, 2 more green dots vanished from the display. On Earth, Kim Sora pulled her fighter into a tight turn after watching her missile tear through the alien ship's shields like paper. The aliens had clearly never faced weapons designed to penetrate their own technology. "Control, this is Eagle 2. Hostile down. Their shields don't work against our newest missiles. Repeat, their shields are vulnerable." Across the world, similar reports came in. Human pilots were shooting down alien fighters with surprising ease. The Vextar ships were advanced, but they were designed to fight other Vextar technology, not the hybrid systems humans had developed. Admiral Kethvar stared at his tactical display in growing alarm. Half his fighter squadrons were gone. The humans weren't surrendering. They were fighting back with unexpected skill and effectiveness. "Sir," Commander Thelnox said carefully, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach. These humans appear more capable than our intelligence suggested." Kethvar's jaw tightened. "No. Deploy the heavy assault craft. If they want to resist, we'll show them the true power of the Vextar Empire." But as more red warnings flashed on his screen, Admiral Kethvar began to wonder if this conquest would be as simple as he had thought. The humans were supposed to be primitive and weak. Instead, they were fighting like cornered animals, and their claws were sharper than expected. Below on Earth, Park Ji-ho managed to get his emergency radio working. He broadcast on every frequency he could find, sending a message to anyone who could hear, "This is not over. We're still fighting. The aliens can be beaten." The message spread through underground networks, ham radio operators, and word of mouth. Earth would not surrender. The real war was just beginning. Captain Zekmor had conquered 12 worlds for the Vextar Empire. He knew how these operations worked. Show overwhelming force, destroy a few military targets, and the primitive species would surrender within days. But Earth was different. As his heavy assault craft descended toward Seoul, his sensors showed something impossible. The humans weren't running or hiding. They were preparing to fight. "Squadron leader," his weapons officer reported, "I'm detecting massive military movement across the planet. Every human nation appears to be mobilizing their forces." Zekmor frowned. "That makes no sense. They saw our demonstration. They know they cannot win." Below in Seoul, Yang Taejin crouched in the wreckage of an alien fighter that had crashed in the Han River. As a civilian engineer, he had no business being here, but the military needed every expert they could find. The alien technology was fascinating and terrifying. The materials were unlike anything he had ever seen, but the basic principles were familiar. Energy conduits, processing units, weapon systems, different from human technology, but not impossible to understand. "The power source is some kind of controlled fusion," he radioed to the military command center. But their energy distribution system has a fatal flaw. If we can overload their main conduits, their whole ship will shut down. His radio crackled back. How do we do that? Yang Taijin studied the wreckage more carefully. EMP weapons, electromagnetic pulse. Their systems aren't hardened against it like ours are. One good EMP burst, and these ships become flying bricks. Across the city, Defense Minister Lee Min-ho coordinated the defense from a bunker deep under Seoul. Reports came in from around the world. Every major nation was fighting back: China, Russia, the United States, Europe, Japan. Humanity had never been so united. "Sir," his aide reported, "the Americans are sharing their latest missile technology. The Russians are offering their electronic warfare systems. Everyone is working together." Lee Min-ho nodded grimly. "Good. What about our own preparations?" The factories are working around the clock. We're modifying every weapon we have based on the alien wreckage analysis. EMP weapons, armor-piercing rounds, adaptive targeting systems. High above the city, Captain Zekmore's assault craft came under attack from multiple directions. Human missiles struck his shields, but these weren't the same weapons from yesterday. These missiles carried EMP warheads that disrupted his ship's systems. "Weapons offline!" his officer shouted. "Shields failing! How are they adapting so quickly?" Before Zekmore could answer, his ship lurched as human fighters swarmed around it like angry insects. Their weapons, crude by Vextar standards, were somehow cutting through his defenses. On the ground, Special Forces operative Bang Woo-jin led his team through Seoul's subway tunnels. The underground network had become a highway for human forces, allowing them to move unseen beneath the alien ships. "Remember," he told his team, "the aliens don't understand urban warfare. They're used to fighting in space or on open battlefields. The city is our weapon." His team emerged from a subway entrance just as an alien assault craft landed in the main square. Instead of attacking directly, Bang Woo-jin's team disappeared into the surrounding buildings. They had learned that alien sensors had trouble tracking heat signatures through concrete and steel. The first alien soldiers stepped out of their ship and immediately came under fire from 12 different directions. Windows, rooftops, doorways. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, striking and vanishing like ghosts. In space, Admiral Kethvar watched his tactical display with growing alarm. His forces were winning individual battles, but the humans kept fighting. More worrying, they were learning from each encounter. "Sir," Commander Thelnox reported, "human resistance is stronger than predicted. They're adapting their tactics in real time. Our casualty reports are significant." Kethvar slammed his fist on the command console. "How is this possible? Our intelligence said they were barely out of their Stone Age." "It appears our intelligence was wrong, sir. These humans show remarkable adaptability. They're reverse engineering our technology and improving their own weapons faster than we anticipated." On Earth, Dr. Cho Hyun worked frantically in a laboratory that had been converted from a university physics department. Around her, teams of scientists from every nation worked together, sharing data and discoveries. "The alien energy systems are more efficient than ours," she explained to a video conference with scientists worldwide. "But they're also more vulnerable. They rely on perfect conditions. Our technology is designed to work even when things go wrong." A colleague from MIT nodded on the screen. "We're seeing the same thing here. Their ships are powerful but fragile, like racing cars instead of tanks." Dr. Cho held up a device she had built from alien components and human electronics. "I've created a hybrid power cell. It combines their energy density with our reliability. We can build weapons they've never seen before." The breakthrough spread across human research centers within hours. Weapons that combined alien power with human ingenuity. Systems that the Vextar couldn't predict or counter because they had never encountered anything like them. Back in Seoul, Kim Sora climbed into her fighter for the third time that day. Her F-35 had been upgraded with new weapons based on captured alien technology. The missiles were smaller than before, but carried fusion warheads that could crack alien shields like eggs. "All units, this is Eagle 2, she radioed. "New weapons are online. Let's show these invaders what happens when you mess with Earth." Her squadron launched into a sky filled with alien ships. But this time, the humans weren't just defending. They were hunting. Captain Zekmore's assault craft was one of many that fell to the human counterattack. As his ship crashed into the Han River, he couldn't understand what had gone wrong. His species had conquered the galaxy using superior technology and overwhelming force. But humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't surrender when faced with superior technology. Instead, they studied it, learned from it, and found ways to turn it against its creators. In his final moments, Zekmore realized the terrible truth. The Vextar Empire had made a fundamental error. They had assumed that primitive meant weak. They had confused technological advancement with intelligence. Humans might have simpler technology, but they were not simple creatures. They were survivors, adapters, and learners. Most dangerous of all, they were united by the threat against them. As night fell over Seoul, Yang Taejin stood in his laboratory surrounded by alien technology and human innovations. In just one day, human science had advanced by decades. They were not just fighting the aliens anymore. They were learning to surpass them. "Sir," his assistant said, "we're getting reports from around the world. Every major city has successfully repelled the alien attacks. The enemy is retreating to orbital positions." Yang Taejin nodded, but he wasn't celebrating yet. This was just the first wave. They'll be back with heavier weapons and better tactics. But so will we. He looked at the hybrid technologies his team had created. Weapons that combined the best of both worlds. Defenses that the aliens couldn't penetrate. Systems that adapted and evolved with each battle. The Vextar had come to Earth expecting an easy conquest. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous than they had imagined. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their weapons. It was their refusal to give up. Admiral Kethavar stared at his fleet's status reports. 20% casualties in the first day. Humans adapting faster than his tactical computers could calculate. Enemy technology improving with each engagement. "Sir," Thelnox said quietly, "perhaps we should call for reinforcements." For the first time in his military career, Admiral Kethavar considered the possibility that the Vextar Empire might not win this war. Dr. Cho Hyun hadn't slept in 3 days. Her laboratory, once a quiet university physics department, now buzzed with activity around the clock. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel worked side by side, turning alien wreckage into human weapons. "The power output is incredible," she told General Morrison over the video link from the Pentagon. "These fusion cores are 10 times more efficient than our best reactors, but that's not the amazing part." She held up a device that looked like a cross between an alien energy cell and a human computer processor. "The amazing part is how easy they are to improve. It's like they were designed to be modified." Across the world, similar discoveries were being made. In Tokyo, researchers found that alien hull materials could be enhanced with carbon nanotube reinforcement. In London, engineers discovered that alien sensors worked perfectly with human computer systems. It was as if human and alien technologies were meant to work together. General Velkar commanded the Vextar ground forces from his flagship orbiting above North America. He had conquered 18 worlds in his career, but he had never seen anything like this. "Explain to me again how a primitive species improved our technology in 3 days, he demanded from his tactical officer. "Sir, their approach is completely different from ours. We build technology to exact specifications and use it as designed. Humans take technology and immediately start changing it, combining it with other systems, finding new uses." Velkar studied the reports from the surface. Human weapons that shouldn't exist. Defenses that adapted faster than his computers could calculate. Strategies that made no logical sense but somehow worked. "It's like fighting an entire species of engineers," his officer continued. Every human seems to be capable of innovation under pressure. In the underground tunnels beneath New York City, Bang Woo-jin led a team of special forces through maintenance corridors that the aliens didn't know existed. Above them, Vexatar troops controlled the streets. But beneath the city was still human territory. "Remember the plan," he whispered to his team. "We hit their command post, take their equipment, and disappear before they know what happened." His team had done this operation 12 times in the past week. Each time, they captured more alien technology. Each time, human scientists learned something new. The aliens were becoming teachers without knowing it. They emerged from a subway, grate directly under an alien command vehicle. The Vextar soldiers inside never saw them coming. Within minutes, Bang Woo-jin's team had disappeared back into the tunnels, carrying advanced alien computers and communication devices. "Control, this is Ghost Team," Bang Woo-jin radioed. "Package delivered. Scientists should have new toys to play with in about an hour." Dr. Cho Hyun was waiting when the captured equipment arrived at her laboratory. But she wasn't alone. Scientists from around the world participated in the analysis through secure video links, knowledge shared instantly across the planet. "Look at this," she said, examining an alien tactical computer. "Their programming is incredibly advanced, but it's also rigid. They don't account for improvisation or unexpected tactics." A colleague from the Russian Academy of Sciences nodded on the screen. "We're seeing the same limitations. Their AI systems are powerful but inflexible. They cannot adapt to situations outside their programming." Dr. Cho smiled grimly. "Then let's give them some situations they've never programmed for." She began modifying the alien computer, combining its processing power with human creativity. The result was a hybrid system that could think like both species. Logical like the aliens, but creative like humans. High above Earth, Admiral Kethvar received an urgent message from the Vextar High Command. Admiral Vorthak, his superior, was coming with reinforcements. Kethvar was both relieved and worried. Reinforcements meant help, but they also meant his failure would be scrutinized. "Sir," Commander Thelnox reported, "Admiral Vorthak's fleet will arrive in 2 days. 300 additional ships." Kethvar nodded. "Good. With 1,100 ships total, we can overwhelm the humans through sheer numbers." But even as he said it, Kethvar doubted his own words. The humans had surprised him too many times. They seemed to grow stronger with each battle, learning and adapting faster than should be possible. On Earth, Captain John Minji stood on the bridge of humanity's first space-capable warship. The vessel had been built in secret, using a combination of human engineering and captured alien technology. It wasn't pretty, but it was functional. "All systems green," her navigation officer reported. "Fusion drive online, weapons charged. We're ready for our first test flight." John Minji had been chosen to command this ship because of her experience with both naval operations and aerospace engineering. She understood that space combat would be different from anything humans had done before. "Take us up," she ordered. "Let's see how our new toy performs." The ship lifted from its hidden launch facility using technology the Vextar had never expected humans to possess. More importantly, it used that technology in ways the aliens had never imagined. In his research facility, Kwon Do-hyun put the finishing touches on his latest creation. The weapon looked like a human missile, but its warhead contained alien energy, matrices configured in ways no Vextar engineer had ever attempted. "Theoretical yield is 10 times our previous weapons," he reported to the military command center. "But that's not the best part. The energy signature is completely unknown. Their sensors won't know how to defend against it." Around the world, similar innovations were being completed. Hybrid technologies that combined human creativity with alien capabilities. Weapons and defenses that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. The Vextar had brought their technology to Earth expecting to demonstrate their superiority. Instead, they had given humanity the tools to surpass them. General Velkar received the first reports of human space activity with disbelief. "That's impossible. Our scans showed they had no interstellar capability. Sir, we're tracking at least 6 human vessels in near-Earth orbit. They appear to be using modified versions of our own propulsion systems. Velkar studied the tactical display. The human ships were small compared to Vextar vessels, but they moved in patterns that suggested advanced tactical thinking. They weren't flying like primitives learning to use alien technology. They were flying like experts who had improved upon it. How is this possible? He demanded. They've had our technology for less than a week. His tactical officer hesitated before answering. Sir, I believe we may have underestimated human intelligence. Their learning curve appears to be exponential rather than linear. On her ship, Captain Jaeon Minji watched the alien fleet through sensors that combined human radar technology with alien detection systems. The hybrid sensors were more accurate than either system alone. "Target the command ship," she ordered. "Let's introduce ourselves to their admiral." Her ship fired its first shot, a missile that combined human guidance systems with alien energy weapons. The warhead struck the Vextar flagship's shields and did something impossible. It adapted. The weapon analyzed the shield frequency, modified its own energy output, and punched through defenses that should have been impenetrable. Admiral Kethvar felt his ship shake as the human weapon struck. Alarms sounded across the bridge as damage reports came in. "Shields down to 60%, his officer reported. "Sir, that weapon somehow adapted to our shield frequency. Our computers have no record of such technology." Kethvar stared at the tactical display. One small human ship had damaged his flagship with a single shot. If humans could build weapons like this in a week, what would they be capable of in a month? For the first time, Admiral Kethvar began to wonder if the Vextar Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had come to conquer a primitive world, but perhaps the primitives weren't as helpless as they had believed. Dr. Cho Hyun watched the battle reports with satisfaction. Every human innovation was being shared across the planet instantly. Every discovery improved their defenses. Every captured alien device made them stronger. "Sir," her assistant said, "we're receiving data from the space battle. The aliens are using predictable tactics. Our computers are already calculating countermeasures." Cho Hyun smiled. The Vextar thought like conquerors, following established patterns and procedures. Humans thought like survivors, constantly adapting and improving. The aliens had brought superior technology to Earth, expecting to demonstrate their dominance. Instead, they had given humanity the greatest gift possible: the tools and motivation to surpass their teachers. Admiral Vorthak's reinforcement fleet was still a day away, but Cho Hyun knew it wouldn't matter. By the time they arrived, humanity would be ready with surprises the Vextar Empire had never imagined. Admiral Vorthak arrived at Earth with 300 additional warships, expecting to find Admiral Kethvar mopping up the last pockets of human resistance. Instead, he found chaos. "Report!" Vorthak demanded, as soon as his flagship entered the Earth system. Kethvar appeared on the communication screen, his uniform dirty and his expression grim. "Sir, the situation is more complex than originally assessed. Human resistance has been unexpectedly effective." Vorthak studied the tactical display. The Vextar fleet was scattered in defensive positions around Earth's orbit. Several ships showed battle damage. Most disturbing of all, human vessels were operating in space, engaging his forces with weapons that registered as unknown on Vextar. "Sensors! Explain to me how a primitive species built spaceships in 1 week," Vorthak said coldly. Before Kethvar could answer, alarms sounded on Vorthak's bridge. His sensor officer called out, "Sir, multiple human vessels just appeared on our flanks. They're using some kind of short-range hyperspace technology." Captain Jaeon Minji smiled as her small fleet dropped out of hyperspace behind the alien reinforcements. Dr. Cho Hyun's team had cracked the secret of Vextar hyperspace drives, but they had improved them in ways the aliens never imagined. All "Ships, this is Horizon 1, she broadcast to her fleet. "Execute attack pattern Delta. Target their engines and communication arrays." Her ships moved like a pack of wolves, using hyperspace jumps for tactical positioning. They would appear, fire, and vanish before the aliens could respond. It was a fighting style that no Vextar commander had ever encountered. Kwon Do-yun watched the battle from his laboratory, monitoring the performance of his hybrid weapons. Each shot provided data that his computers used to improve the next generation of weapons. "Fascinating," he said to his team. "Their shield technology is incredibly advanced, but it's designed to stop known threats. Our hybrid weapons are completely outside their experience." His latest creation was already being loaded onto human ships, a missile that could analyze enemy defenses, modify its own structure, and adapt its attack in real time. It was like giving each weapon its own artificial intelligence. Admiral Vorthak watched in dismay as human ships danced around his fleet, striking where he was weakest and vanishing before he could counterattack. His ships were larger and more powerful, but the humans were faster and more clever. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "human weapons are adapting to our defenses faster than we can compensate. Each attack is more effective than the last." "Is this possible?" Vorthak demanded. "They've had access to our technology for barely a week." Before anyone could answer, another wave of human ships appeared, this time directly above his fleet. They dropped weapons that looked like simple bombs, but registered massive energy signatures on his sensors. The bombs didn't explode. They attached themselves to Vextar ships and began draining their power. Within minutes, dozens of alien vessels went dark as their energy systems were completely absorbed. "Sir, those devices are stealing our energy and transmitting it somewhere," the sensor officer reported in panic. "Our ships are being powered down remotely." On Earth, Dr. Cho Hyun monitored the power levels in her laboratory as energy from the alien fleet flowed into human systems. "Energy transfer at 100% efficiency," she reported. "We're using their own power against them." It was a tactic that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. The Vexitar had built their ships to share power between vessels, but they had never imagined that system being hijacked by an enemy. Bang Woo-jin led his Special Forces team through the corridors of a captured alien ship. The vessel had been disabled by power drain, leaving its crew helpless. His mission was to capture as many alien officers as possible for intelligence gathering. "Remember, we need them alive," he told his team. "Every prisoner gives us more information about their technology and tactics." The Vextar crew surrendered without fighting. They had never been trained for ship-to-ship boarding actions. In their experience, space battles were fought at long range with energy weapons, not with soldiers storming through corridors. Admiral Vorthak found himself in an impossible situation. His fleet was scattered. Many ships were powerless, and human forces were capturing his vessels faster than he could respond. "Sir," Commander Thelnox reported from Kethvar's ship, "perhaps we should consider withdrawal. We can regroup with the main fleet and return with overwhelming numbers." Vorthak's pride rebelled against the suggestion, but his tactical training told him it was the logical choice. The humans were not fighting like any enemy the Vextar had encountered. Every assumption about primitive species was proving wrong. "All ships," he broadcast, "prepare for emergency hyperspace jump. We're withdrawing to regroup." But Captain John Minji had anticipated this move. Her ships had positioned themselves around the Vextar fleet's likely escape routes. As the alien ships began charging their hyperspace drives, human vessels appeared with weapons specifically designed to disrupt the jump sequence. "All ships, target their hyperspace generators," John Minji ordered. "Don't let them escape to warn their empire." Kwon Do-hyun's latest weapons proved devastatingly effective. The hyperspace disruptors not only prevented the alien ships from jumping away, but also damaged their engines in ways that left them stranded in Earth's orbit. Admiral Vorthak watched his escape routes close one by one. The humans had somehow predicted his tactics and prepared countermeasures. It was as if they could read his mind. "Sir," his officer said quietly, We're trapped. The humans have cut off all our escape routes and are systematically disabling our ships. For the first time in his military career, Admiral Vorthak faced the possibility of defeat, not by a superior force, but by a species that had somehow turned his own advantages against him. On Earth, military leaders around the world coordinated the final phase of the battle. The alien fleet was neutralized, their ships captured or destroyed. Most importantly, humanity now had access to hundreds of intact Vextar vessels. This changes everything, Defense Minister Lee Min-ho told the Global Council. We have their ships, their technology, their tactical databases. We know where they came from and how their empire operates. Dr. Cho Hyun was already planning the next phase. Their hyperspace technology is impressive, but we can improve it. With our modifications, we can travel farther and faster than any Vextar ship. The captured alien officers provided intelligence that shocked human leaders. The Vextar Empire controlled hundreds of worlds, enslaving billions of beings. Earth was just their latest target, but Admiral Vorthak and his surviving officers learned something that terrified them even more. Humanity was not alone. As they were interrogated, they discovered that Earth had allies, other species that had been planning this moment for years. Ambassador Shin Ji-woo appeared on screens in human command centers around the world. She had been waiting for this moment, when humanity was ready to learn the truth. People of Earth, she said, it's time you knew the real situation. The Vextar Empire has been expanding for centuries, conquering and enslaving every species they encounter. But they have made one critical mistake. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. They assumed that conquest was the only way to build a galactic civilization. They never considered that voluntary cooperation might be stronger than forced submission. The truth was staggering. Earth had been in contact with dozens of other species for decades. The apparent surprise attack had been carefully orchestrated to lure the Vextar fleet into a trap. Captain Telvax, a Vextar defector who had been secretly helping the Resistance for years, provided the final piece of the puzzle. Your planet was chosen specifically because it appeared to be an easy target. The Empire wanted to make an example of you, to show other worlds what happened to those who might resist. He smiled grimly. Instead, you have shown the galaxy what happens when the Vextar underestimate their enemies. Admiral Vorthak, now a prisoner on his own flagship, realized the full scope of his defeat. The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had won the war before it started, turning the Vextar's own tactics against them. The primitive species had proven that intelligence was more valuable than technology, that cooperation was stronger than conquest, and that the hunters could become the hunted. As human ships took control of the captured Vextar fleet, Admiral Vorthak understood that his empire's age of easy expansion was over. The galaxy had found its defenders, and they were not what anyone had expected them to be. Ambassador Shin Ji-woo stood in the secure briefing room deep beneath Seoul, surrounded by world leaders who were finally learning the truth about Earth's place in the galaxy. The holographic display showed a map that changed everything they thought. They knew about their world. For 50 years, Earth has been part of a network, she explained, her voice calm despite the magnitude of her revelation. 47 different species, all working together to resist Vextar expansion. President Chen of the United States leaned forward. 50 years? We've been in contact with aliens for 50 years, and nobody knew? Shin Ji-woo nodded. The knowledge was limited to a small group of scientists and government officials. We couldn't risk the information falling into Vextar hands. They have spies everywhere, but they never suspected Earth was anything more than a primitive world. The holographic map showed trade routes, communication networks, and hidden bases scattered across dozens of star systems. Earth wasn't isolated at all. It was a central hub in a vast underground resistance movement. Director Nam Seung-hwan stepped forward. He had run Earth's classified First Contact Department for 20 years, keeping the secret that was now being revealed to the world. The Vexitar Empire controls about 60% of this galaxy, he explained. But the remaining 40% is made up of free worlds that refuse to submit. We've been coordinating resistance efforts, sharing technology, and planning for this moment. Defense Minister Lee Min-ho stared at the display in shock. Planning for what moment? The moment when we could end Vexitar expansion permanently, Shin Ji-woo replied. Earth was chosen as the bait because you possess something unique among galactic civilizations. She touched a control and the display changed to show comparative analyses of different species. Human data stood out dramatically from all the others. Adaptability, she continued. No other species learns and improves as quickly as humans do. When we gave you limited access to alien technology over the decades, you consistently found ways to improve it that the original creators never imagined. Dr. Cho Hyun, who had been listening in stunned silence, finally spoke. The fusion technology we've been developing, the quantum computers, the energy systems, they weren't human innovations, were they? Some were purely human, Nam Sung-wan admitted. But others were based on alien science that we carefully introduced through our network. We needed humanity to be ready when this day came. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth's technological advancement hadn't happened in isolation. They had been carefully prepared for this confrontation over decades. Captain. Telvax appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from the captured Vexitar flagship. The alien defector had been working with Earth's resistance network for years, feeding intelligence about Empire operations. The Vexitar leadership is in panic, he reported. 2 of their most experienced admirals have been defeated by a species they considered primitive. But more importantly, they're discovering that their expansion has been watched and countered by a coordinated resistance. He paused, checking his instruments. I've transmitted the locations of all Vexitar military bases to your fleet. You now have better intelligence about their empire than most of their own officers. On the captured ships orbiting Earth, human technical teams worked alongside alien engineers from the Resistance Network. Species that had been fighting the Vexitar for decades shared their knowledge freely, creating hybrid technologies that surpassed anything any single race had achieved. Kwon Do-hyun found himself working with a brilliant engineer from the Altarian Collective, a species that had escaped Vexitar conquest 50 years earlier. Your approach to energy manipulation is remarkable, his new colleague said through a translation device. You think in ways that our computers cannot predict. Combined with our mathematical precision, we can create weapons the Vexitar will never anticipate. Around Earth's orbit, the captured Vexitar fleet was being rapidly converted for human use. But these weren't simple repairs. Human engineers, guided by decades of secretly acquired knowledge, were improving every system. Captain John Minji stood on the bridge of what had been Admiral Vorthak's flagship. The command center had been modified with human interfaces and hybrid technology that made it more effective than its original design. Navigation. Plot a course for the Vexitar border worlds, she ordered. It's time to carry the fight to them. Her new ship was faster than any Vexitar vessel, armed with weapons they couldn't counter, and crewed by humans who thought in ways their enemy couldn't predict. The revelation of Earth's true nature spread through the resistance network at the speed of light. On dozens of worlds, oppressed populations received the message that the Vexitar Empire had finally met its match. Dr. Yu Suman, a xenobiologist who had been studying alien psychology for the resistance network, explained the deeper strategy to the gathered leaders. The Vexitar Empire is built on the assumption that superior technology equals inevitable victory, she said. They've conquered dozens of species by demonstrating overwhelming force, but they've never faced coordinated resistance that could match and exceed their capabilities. She brought up psychological profiles of Vexitar leadership. Their culture values hierarchy and predictable outcomes. They cannot adapt when their fundamental assumptions are proven wrong. The defeat at Earth will cause chaos throughout their empire. Ambassador Shin Ji-woo received reports from resistance cells across the galaxy. The news of humanity's victory was spreading faster than the Vex-Tar could contain it. 17 worlds have declared independence in the past 6 hours, she announced. The Vex-Tar are withdrawing forces from border systems to protect their core worlds. Their empire is beginning to fracture. Director Nam Seung-wan coordinated the next phase of operations. Our allies are moving to support the rebel worlds. Meanwhile, our human fleets will strike at Vex-Tar military installations. We need to keep them off balance while the resistance spreads. The captured Admiral Vorthok was brought to the briefing room under guard. His presence served to demonstrate how completely the situation had changed. The conquering admiral was now a prisoner of the species he had tried to subjugate. You were set up from the beginning, Shin Ji-woo told him. Every aspect of this invasion was predicted and planned for. Your empire's arrogance became the weapon we used against you. Vorthak's expression showed his understanding of the trap. The intelligence reports, the assessment of human capabilities, they were all wrong. They were all carefully crafted lies, Nam Seung-wan confirmed. Fed to your spies over decades, you saw exactly what we wanted you to see. A primitive, divided world that would be easy to conquer. The Admiral looked at the holographic display showing the resistance network. Dozens of species, hundreds of worlds, all working together against his empire. The scope of the deception was staggering. How long have you been planning this? He asked. Since the day your empire first appeared in our galaxy, Shin Ji-woo replied. We've been waiting for a species with the right combination of intelligence, adaptability, and determination to serve as the catalyst for your defeat. She gestured toward the human leaders in the room. Humanity proved to be everything we hoped for and more. You brought your best technology to Earth, and they used it to surpass you in less than a week. Dr. Cho Hyun looked at the display showing human fleets departing Earth orbit, carrying hybrid weapons and crewed by people who had learned to think beyond the limitations of any single species. We're not just fighting back, she realized. We're leading a galactic revolution. The resistance network that had operated in secret for decades was now openly challenging the Vex-Tar Empire. And at its heart were humans who had proven that cooperation and adaptation were stronger than conquest and domination. Earth had been the bait in the trap, but humanity had become the key to victory. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when an empire built on fear encountered a civilization built on hope. Fleet Admiral Park Jin-soo stood on the bridge of the Resistance flagship, watching as ships from 47 different species took their positions around the Vex-Tar home system. The final battle was about to begin. 3 months had passed since the failed invasion of Earth. In that time, the Vex-Tar Empire had watched helplessly as their territory shrank and their authority crumbled. World after world had declared independence, supported by the resistance network that was no longer hiding. All fleet commanders report ready, his communications officer announced. Coalition forces are in position. Park Jin-soo nodded. He had been chosen to lead this operation not because he was the most experienced admiral, but because human strategic thinking had proven uniquely effective against Vex-Tar tactics. Dr. Yu Suman monitored the psychological warfare broadcasts that had been transmitted to the Vex-Tar worlds for weeks. Her analysis of their culture had been perfect. The Empire was tearing itself apart as their rigid hierarchy collapsed under the pressure of repeated defeats. Sir, she reported, intelligence indicates that 17 Vex-Tar admirals have been executed for failure in the past month. Their leadership is paralyzed by fear of making mistakes. This was exactly what the Resistance had planned. The Vex-Tar Empire's strength came from predictable hierarchical command structures. When those structures failed, their entire military became ineffective. Captain Jean Minji commanded a squadron of hybrid ships that combined the best technology from dozens of species. Her flagship had been built using captured Vex-Tar hull materials, human engineering principles, and power systems designed by the Altarian Collective. All squadrons, this is Phoenix Leader, she broadcast. Remember, we're not here to destroy their worlds. We're here to liberate them. Target military installations only. The human approach to warfare was different from anything the galaxy had seen before. Where other species fought for conquest or revenge, humans fought for liberation. It was a distinction that mattered to the billions of beings trapped under Vextar rule. Emperor Kethnazor, supreme ruler of the Vextar Empire, watched from his palace as the Resistance fleet entered his home system. For 800 years, his species had dominated this galaxy through superior technology and ruthless efficiency. Now they faced an enemy that turned their own advantages against them. How many ships? He demanded from his military advisors. Approximately 3,000, my lord, Admiral Zethkar replied nervously. But they're using hybrid technologies we cannot counter. Our weapons are ineffective against their adaptive shields. The Emperor's rage was cold and terrible. I don't want excuses. I want solutions. How do we defeat them? But there was no answer. The Resistance had spent decades studying Vextar technology and tactics. Every weapon, every strategy, every psychological pressure point had been analyzed and countered. On Earth, Dr. Cho Hyun coordinated the technological aspects of the battle from her laboratory. Her hybrid computers could process information faster than any pure Vextar or human system, giving the Coalition fleet a decisive advantage. Their defensive networks are collapsing, she reported to Park Jin-soo. Our electronic warfare systems are more sophisticated than anything they've encountered. The irony was deliberate. The Vextar had brought their technology to Earth expecting to demonstrate their superiority. Instead, humanity had learned to surpass their teachers and shared that knowledge with every oppressed species in the galaxy. Kwon Do-hyun's weapons performed exactly as designed. Each shot adapted to enemy defenses, modified its approach, and struck with precision that seemed impossible. The Vextar ships built for known threats had no defense against weapons that evolved during combat. Sir, reported the tactical officer on Park Jin-soo's flagship, enemy fleet is breaking formation. They're trying to scatter to defend individual worlds. Park Jin-soo smiled. This was another predictable response based on Dr. Yu Suman's psychological analysis. When faced with overwhelming force, the Vextar instinct was to protect their own territory rather than work together. All fleet commanders, he broadcast, execute dispersion protocol. Follow your assigned targets. Remember, the goal is liberation, not destruction. The Coalition fleet split into smaller groups, each one following Vextar ships to their home worlds. But they weren't pursuing to destroy. They were pursuing to free the billions of enslaved beings on those worlds. Bang Woo-jin led special forces teams in the assault on the Vextar capital world. But these weren't traditional military operations. Human teams worked with resistance cells from dozens of species, coordinating uprisings that freed entire populations. Remember, he told his teams, every Vextar soldier who surrenders is one less enemy we have to fight. Offer them the chance to join the Coalition. It was a radical concept. Most galactic conflicts ended with the complete destruction of the losing side. Humans offered something different, the chance for redemption and cooperation. Emperor Kethnazor found himself trapped in his own palace as resistance forces surrounded the capital city. For the first time in 8 centuries, a Vextar emperor faced the possibility of personal defeat. My lord, Admiral Zethkar said quietly, perhaps we should consider negotiation. The humans have offered terms. The Emperor's fury was beyond measure. Negotiation? With primitives? Never. But even as he spoke, reports came in of Vextar worlds surrendering without resistance. Their empire was dissolving as populations chose freedom over loyalty to a failing regime. Captain Telvax, the Vextar defector who had helped plan this moment, broadcast a message to all remaining Imperial forces. Brothers and sisters, he said, the empire we served has fallen. But that doesn't mean we must fall with it. The coalition offers us something our emperors never did, the chance to choose our own path. His words carried weight because he was Vextar, speaking to his own people. Hundreds of ships began broadcasting surrender signals as crews chose cooperation over destruction. Dr. Yu Suman monitored the psychological collapse of the Vextar leadership. "Sir," she reported to Park Jin-soo, "intelligence indicates that Emperor Kethanazor has been abandoned by most of his government. Only his personal guard remains loyal. The end came not with a massive battle, but with a simple choice. Emperor Kethanazor, faced with the complete collapse of his empire, could either fight to the death or accept the coalition's terms. Ambassador Shin Ji-woo delivered the final ultimatum personally, landing her ship in the Imperial Palace courtyard, with only a small diplomatic escort. "Your empire is finished," she told the emperor. "Your worlds have chosen freedom. Your fleets have surrendered. You can die as the last tyrant of a dead regime, or you can live to help us build something better." For the first time in his long life, Emperor Kethanazor faced a choice that his rigid culture had never prepared him for. Surrender to a species he had considered beneath him, or watch his entire civilization be destroyed. The Emperor's surrender was broadcast across the galaxy. The Vextar Empire, which had dominated known space for 8 centuries, was officially dissolved, but the coalition didn't claim the Empire's territory. Instead, they offered each world the chance to govern itself, with support and protection from the resistance network that had become a new kind of galactic civilization. Park Ji-ho, the astronomer who had first detected the Vextar fleet, stood in the same observatory where it all began. But now, instead of watching for threats, he was tracking exploration ships heading out to make contact with species beyond the old Empire's borders. "Sir," his assistant said, "we're receiving signals from the Andromeda Galaxy. It appears there are other civilizations out there, some of them facing threats similar to what we overcame." Park Ji-ho smiled. Humanity's role in the galaxy was no longer about defense. They had become teachers, showing other species that cooperation was stronger than conquest, that diversity was more valuable than uniformity. Fleet Admiral Park Jin-soo stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching as former Vextar ships joined coalition patrols. The galaxy was at peace for the first time in centuries, not because one empire ruled everything, but because free worlds had chosen to work together. "Sir," his aide reported, "the first mixed crews are reporting excellent performance. Human adaptability combined with alien expertise is proving even more effective than our projections suggested." The final irony was complete. The Vextar had come to Earth to demonstrate the futility of resistance. Instead, they had taught the galaxy that even the mightiest empire could fall when faced with united determination and superior thinking. Dr. Cho Hyun continued her research, but now she worked with scientists from dozens of species, sharing knowledge freely and pushing the boundaries of what was possible when different minds worked together. The technology that emerged from their cooperation surpassed anything any single species had achieved. Humans had proven that their greatest strength wasn't their ability to fight, but their ability to unite others in common cause. As the sun set over Seoul, Park Ji-ho looked up at stars that no longer held threats, but possibilities. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only begun to explore what they could accomplish when they combined their adaptability with the wisdom and knowledge of their new allies. The Vextar had come to trap Earth, and found themselves the ones surrounded.